tips that you can take and remember your note names. This is different from sight reading, and I think I will do another video on sight reading tips. So for now, these are tips on just note recognition. So the first thing is, you could, for the spaces, for the treble spaces, you could spell face. So just do that, F-A-C-E. So face. So you could think the treble clef is the top of the grand staff. Our face is on top of our body, so you could think of it that way. Now on the bass clef, you could take the same letters, but start with A at the bottom, so you're just starting with the second one, A-C-E, and F can go down here. If you'll notice, the bass clef is actually just a skip below what the treble clef is. So F could be at the very bottom, but if you don't want to worry about that, sometimes that could be confusing, then don't worry about it and just start with ace. And when you're playing a deck of cards, ace is a great card to have, so we can add G and just remember that's for great. Ace is great. So those are for the spaces. Now if you remember the spaces, the lines of course go in between the spaces, and so you can go up or down and figure out the line notes. But if you want a way to remember the line notes, a popular way is by doing sentences. So on the lines in the treble clef, we could say, every good boy does fine. So, every good boy does fine. And then on the bass clef, we could say, starts with G, so remember I'm taking the second one, G, B, D, F, and A. So we could say good boys deserve fudge always, or whatever you can come up with. There's all sorts of fun sentences you could come up with to remember those. The other thing is that I really like is what's called GBF ace. So Jibbity F ace, Jibbity F ace. And that is for the entire grand staff. So I'm going to just grab my bigger magnets for that because I need more of them. So if I start at the bottom and do G, B, D, F, I guess I'll use this one, F, and then ace. A in the middle, C, and then it goes up to E. So we have GBD F, so you can think of the word jibbity, jibbity F, GBD F, and then ace, you spell the word ace, and then you just do it again. G, B, D, F, and then do ace for the top of the ledger lines up at the top. So it just goes like that. So it's literally the entire grand staff is jibbity F ace, jibbity F ace. So those are all the lines and of the grand staff. So you can remember it that way, jibbity F ace. Now the next tip is going to be the family of C's on the grand staff. The great thing about the family of C's is they mirror each other on the grand staff, so they're pretty easy to remember where the location of them are. So first we start with middle C, which of course is in the middle of the grand staff, and then we add treble C. Treble C is located the second from the top space down, so or you can go 1, 2, 3 up spaces, and then the high C is located 2 ledger lines up from the grand staff. So we're going to mirror these 2 notes down here. So if we were looking in the mirror, everything's opposite. So if this is the second from the top, this one's going to be the second from the bottom. So this is the bass clef. And if this is 2 ledger lines up, this is going to be 2 ledger lines down. So this would be low C. The great thing about remembering the C is, first of all, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's only 5 notes you need to remember. And then you can go from there. Okay, so say like I'm stuck on this note right here, I can skip down and go one more down. Or if I'm stuck on this note, I could step down and say, oh, that's a B. Or if I'm stuck on this note, I can skip up and then go one more. So you could kind of do it by intervals. Figure them out. From the ground staff of Cs. In addition to the ground staff of Cs, the family of Cs, we have what's called guide note reading. And guide note reading are the same idea. You have what's called guide notes. They're located on the ground staff in certain areas to help you remember. So automatically, I shouldn't erase this, but automatically those C's are guide notes because they're in particular spots that will help us remember where they are on the ground staff. So they're automatically guide notes. The other two guide notes that are common are Treble G, which is right here, and the Treble G is located, if you make this a full circle on the treble clef, you're circling the G line. Also, back before the treble clef looked like this, it evolved into a fancier treble clef, but it looked more like a G when it was first drawn. You'll see old music from composers' original works, such as Beethoven and etc., and their treble clef looks more like this, and then it evolved into this. Then the bass clef looked more like an F and involved with this. So in between the two dots, we have the F line. So you can remember G is the line, the second line above the treble clef, and the second from the top going down is F on the bass clef. So those are two that you can remember. Another little tip is the bottom line of the bass clef. You can remember if the bottom is like a ground level of the bass clef, so that's a G for ground, and then the top line for the treble clef is an F. So they're just opposites. G and F's are pretty much mirrored opposites. So I hope that was some helpful note reading tips to you that you can apply and think about when you're reading your notes and playing. Now when we are playing, we typically don't read as individual notes. We read in patterns, such as when we read books, we don't read individual letters, we read words. We read whole words, and then we read sentences. The same thing applies to music. We don't read individual notes necessarily when we're playing our pieces, but we read patterns, measures, and phrases, which are musical sentences. So we look at everything in chunks. So the next video that I'm going to do is on sight reading tips, and that will give you more tips on reading, but in more of a musical way versus individual note reading. I hope this video is helpful for you. Thanks for watching. Bye.